My name is Mike Landry, and it is a great pleasure to be considered for President of World Physiotherapy. I want to send a personal message to the entire executive committee. We just have emerged from a pandemic, a global pandemic. None of you asked to be leaders through one of the most significant events in our lives, personal and professional. And I, for one, think you've done an amazing job. You've taken us, you've brought us to a whole new level, and for that, I'd like to offer my sincere thanks. I'm Canadian, I live in the United States, but my primary academic appointment is in Norway. My background, in 1993 I graduated from the University of Ottawa with a bachelor's in physiotherapy. I went directly into a master's program at Western University after that. I then went into clinical practice, orthopedics and sports medicine for a number of years, but in 1996 a momentous opportunity arose. Dr. Malcolm Peat from Queen's University asked me to participate in the War Victims Rehabilitation Program, and I went to Bosnia for 5 years. It was one of the most instrumental learning opportunities of my entire career as a physiotherapist. It occurred to me during that time why politics and why political decisions and how political decisions are made. I then returned to do a PhD in health services research at the University of Toronto, and then did 2 postdoctoral fellowships, one at the Toronto Rehabilitation Center and the other at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. After spending about 10 years at the University of Toronto, my wife and I moved to Durham, North Carolina, where we started our careers at Duke University. My wife, Sudha, is also a physiotherapist and a pharmacoepidemiologist. We have 3 children, 3 daughters, all of which are amazing hockey players. One of the most innovative thinkers in physiotherapy, in my opinion, is Dr. David Nichols. In one of his works, called Physiotherapy Otherwise, he talks a lot about how our profession has evolved over the years, over the decades, and how we've achieved some level of privilege in the healthcare sector. He also challenges us to think about how the future is going to be different. And so, using that as background, I'd like to mention a few points that are going to be important for us to consider as physiotherapists, also as a global community of physiotherapists into the future. The first one, from a technological perspective, is the introduction of artificial intelligence in pretty much all that we do. ChatGPT, over the last 6 months since its introduction, has been a revolutionary technology that has changed how academics work. It has changed how we look at artificial intelligence. In the future, I wonder how artificial intelligence is going to affect our practice. And by that, I don't mean simply in high-income countries. I mean across the entire spectrum of high, middle, and low resource communities. So artificial intelligence is something that we need to understand and prepare for as we move into the future. The second technological revolution that I see is how green technology is at a tipping point. We have to understand our impact as physiotherapists on the environment, but equally, how does the environment affect our populations that we treat, both at an individual, community, and global level? We now know, after the war in Ukraine, that we have the highest number of refugees that has ever been documented, many of whom are from conflict, but a lot are from environmental refugees. And so we have to start thinking, what is the impact of the environment on us and the impact that it has, in exchange has, on the patients that we treat. The third is hyperconnectivity, data-driven rehabilitation. We now have an opportunity globally to collect data on the patients that we treat and to use that data to improve the effectiveness and efficiencies. Data-driven rehabilitation, I think, is going to be a game changer for us into the future, and we have to start thinking, what position do we play? Do we want to lead in data-driven rehabilitation? Do we want to be a follower? We have to understand the impact of these factors on our future profession. Now, from an economic perspective, we are heading into 2023 into what most experts would suggest is going to be a recession. And so we need to understand the impact of the economy and the changes to the economy onto our profession. So there's a few things that I might mention that we need to be aware of. The first is that advanced economies are projected to see a significant economic downturn. There are many scenarios that are being planned. But in all cases, 2023 and beyond, especially in the post-pandemic period, are looked at as a time where we're going to see inflation, more inflation, hyperinflation, and an economic downturn. Our services in physiotherapy are known as what is elastic. So as the cost of rehabilitation increases, whether that's from hyperinflation or the true cost of service delivery, we know that there is a decrease in services demanded. And so that inequity is something that we have to start thinking about, again, as we move into a period of likely hyperinflation. The uncertainties surrounding the Ukraine and the events that are unfolding in Sudan are going to have an impact on supply chains. They're going to have an impact on the economy. So we have to understand how are these events going to have an impact on the services that we deliver across the globe. Those two particular countries are members of our association. So I wonder, where are we in providing support, and how can we provide better support in a way that actually supports them and allows us to continue along our trajectory in terms of growth and development. Soaring debt in the post-pandemic period. KPMG, one of the larger consulting firms, suggests there's 3 probable scenarios. The first one would be what they have termed immaculate recovery, where we see an evolution of the economy as we would have seen without the pandemic. Another scenario is slowflation, not hyperinflation, but a slowing of the global economy such that it is not a hyperinflation scenario, but certainly not an immaculate recovery. The third is probably the worst scenario, which is a period of time over 24 to 36 months where we will see more and more inflationary measures with a restriction in public spending. Building upon the amazing work that the current executive board members have made, I would like to propose a strategy to move us forward into a new economy where new changes are going to occur, and so that we can position ourselves for the future and not only for the past. I've proposed in the website something called the Making the Connections model. It has 4 particular elements to it. One of them is visioning the future of physiotherapy. I've described some of the details inside of the website. The second is looking towards much more decentralized models of decision making. The third looks at increasing diversity of all that we do and transparency of all that we do in the association. And the final element of the Making the Connection model has to do with ensuring that we create and describe the value for membership. As I spoke with member organizations, regions, subgroups around the world, this has become the most important aspect that they've communicated with me. Finances are important, the future is important, but creating and describing value for membership becomes a key step forward and is a key step, cornerstone inside of my model. And so the Making the Connection model, the MTC model, includes 4 specific areas that fit very well within the existing strategic plan that was just launched for the World Physiotherapy Association, and I believe they're doable. I'd invite you to have a look at the website and look at each one of those components, where I have a short video describing in detail some of my further ideas. Friends and colleagues, I'd like to leave you with one quote. We are one, but we are not the same. We need to carry each other. As we move forward, we are one. We are a global community of physiotherapists, but we're different. If you live in Montreal or Mumbai, the stressors, the issues are different. We need to work collaboratively with an understanding. We are one, but we're not the same.